semester of studio talks at 611. Thank you for being here. I'd like to introduce you to Christine Major and thank you so much for opening up this semester of studio talks. She's here also for a Crimp and Fabric talk on painting, painting symposium that's happening today. Isabel Gras is going to be opening tonight at Emily Carr, and then tomorrow at 11:30 you can go to Christine's panel talk at 11:30 at Woodward's. So that's say thank you, and Christine.
Thank you very much, Alison, for having me. Thank you, Anne, for introducing me to Vancouver, because it's my first visit to Vancouver. I was trying to get a feeling of the context of it. I just discovered this gorgeous building, and I'm already super jealous. I love this kind of industrial architecture. We have that in Montreal. I'm from Montreal. I teach at UQAM, Université du Québec in Montreal, which I believe is a university that has a lot of things to share with Simon Fraser University. We have a similar sensibility of how I'm reading the context, and the context that I discovered like half an hour ago. But still, I'm very, very happy to be here. I was just reading the sort of summary I prepared for this talk today. I don't know if you're here for gore imagery, violent images, and everything like that, because I refer to that part of my production a lot in this small summary. But what I'll be doing a lot during this presentation, I have over 100 images to show you. So it's going to be, I'll zap through 20 years of painting production, because I believe you don't know my practice, so I'll try to show you some of the principles, let's say, of my practice. So I thought it would be important for you to see, and it's interesting to see all the different phases in my practice. So I'll go through the images, and I'll try to not spend more than 30 seconds per image. So that's my challenge today. And at the end of the PowerPoint, I'll be referring to my recent production and exhibition that I did in a poor neighborhood in Montreal. So this is more about the gore imagery, and I was referring to my text here. But I'll sort of get you through my practice in order to contextualize that specific body of work that I've been working on since last summer. So if I have time, I'll talk a bit about that part of the project, of my actual body of work. But it's sort of a big way for me to invite you to come to the symposium tomorrow, because we'll be talking in more details about this specific project, and I'll go through again some of the important elements in my practice, and it will be in this very interesting panel around differences. So we'll be able to talk more about how or I envision painting. Okay, je viens d'avoir un moment de français. It's like, because I'm actually a francophone from Montreal. I haven't been talking in English for the past 7 years. So it's sometimes I'll be a bit bizarre. So please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have some. I know there's a lot of students from Alison's class. Some of you may want to do a little summary on my work. So if you want to ask questions at any point, just raise your hand. I would be happy to answer them, because I have no idea of your needs, how you envision things, or are you interested in painting. So I would be happy to just stop talking and answer your questions. So there's a lot of keywords that I think I'll try to work around in my presentation: identity, feminist issues. You know, is it possible to do figurative painting and being a feminist? I'm still asking myself that question. How images function in the media. You know that a lot of figurative painters are interested in this idea of the proliferation of images on the web, on different platforms. So I'll be basically showing you a bit of what kind of work process I have, because I'm interested in working with found images and answering in a certain way this proliferation of images around us. I would say that I have this way of working, and I'm very interested in contextualizing my work. The context where I show work is very important. It informs my practice, and I'll try to explain a bit more about that. The title of my PowerPoint is The Voyage Out. Does it sound familiar, that title? It's a book by somebody maybe you've read. In French, the translation of that book is La Traversée des Apparences, The Voyage Out by Virginia Woolf. And it's interesting because I like the title in French, Traversée des Apparences, it means appearances. So I really related to that title because I've been working with projected images for many years. And what I do, I paint, and there's actually a projection. It goes through my body in a way, and I trace the image on my canvas. So being traversed by images has been very important to me. So technology, how it's filtered through my experience, has been a way to inform my conceptual and formal approach to painting. So in English, the voyage out for me has a different meaning, and then la traversée des apparences refers more to this process of going through the images going through my body. But filtering this proliferation of images through my body is a very important aspect of my practice. And the reason why I'm referring to Virginia Woolf and the difference of the title in English and in French is to talk about the fact that language filters also the experience of art, the discursive context where the work is placed also informs the meaning of the work. And I've been extremely concerned or interested by this difference in the discursive context where the work is shown. And I think the project I'll be talking tomorrow about is the ultimate expression of that difficulty with dealing with the discursive context, dealing with the way the work is framed in commercial galleries, in artist-run centers, in museums, how the context informs the work. I'll try to talk a bit about that aspect. So there's a word that I'll try to pronounce, but I can't pronounce that word in French either. It's a word by Deleuze, détériorisation. Détériorisation. The fact that of being outside, right? Do you know Deleuze? Have you heard that word? Détériorisation. Never? No. So it's this idea of being outside the frame. Okay? Being for me, painting is all about framing. It's a framing device. And I'll show you different bodies of work that I've examined this notion of framing through different thematic approaches. And the 15 project was really a way to be ultimately outside this discursive frame of this imagination. Okay, I'll start with the slides because I have not the slides but the images. This is the last show I had recently in a group exhibition called Her Story Today. It was a group of 6 women painters showing at the museum in Montreal. So it was a big statement of not necessarily feminist work, but acknowledging the work of female painters in Montreal. It was an interesting way to contextualize the practice of painters in a museum context. So I'll show you a few images. I had the chance to show this series of girls. This quadriptyque was called Tititainment without end. So it was very ironic and very titties, like, can I say that word? Tititainment without end. So it was very ironic. You know, I'm a feminist painter, but I had like a huge difficulty painting female figures because, like, looking at media images, there's so many women being used to sell things that I never actually used female figures at all in my paintings. But in that series, I found like the reference to abstraction, the humor, the acid palette was a good equilibrium to be representing female figures. I had also not the chance, but I showed 200 paintings from a project I call Borderline Girl Driver, and I'll talk a bit more about that. The idea is that in the museum setting, for example, it's like a small sample of the work I'm doing around the Borderline Girl Driver. But I had the opportunity to show a few of these paintings in that setting. I'm showing you more of my, institutional, or this was at the Gallery of Lucam. I showed a series of paintings in the exhibition called The Disorder of Things. So the figures were like surrounded by piles of toys, and I'll just go through a bit of how I work. So basically, I do like photo shoots in the studio with models, and then I construct a context around these photo shoots with found images or whatever. So there's like a back and forth between working with models in the studio, constructing a painting, and trying to also play with the context I am working with. So that is a bit how I construct. Can you see a bit how I? Very bad. Are we here? C'est petit à l'image. Can we get this a bigger screenshot? Yeah, expand. I don't know if you work with like collages approaches, and if you have like folders on your desktop. But I'm constantly reworking found images, doing digital collages, and like there's tons of images that I'm working with, but it really depends on in what context I will show the work, and then I do a selection from this back and forth with the collage. So this is another painting from the Disorder of Things. So I was talking to you about this body of work. It's like an ongoing body of work called the Borderline Girl Driver. So I went to Abitibi with two of my students at the master program, and we did a road trip going 6 hours north of Quebec to Abitibi. So our idea was to collect images, but being a bit more like doing documentation of landscape, we met feminist groups over there. So we really went on a road trip around in a residency, in the first part residency, and then we constructed an exhibition around that experience of the landscape and meeting with people. So it's another way for me to get out of the studio, stop like obsessing with my process on the computer, and select images and give a body to my paintings, and make a final selection depending on this output, let's say. I don't know if you're fetishist, but as a painter, I fetishize a lot of things. So I wanted to show you my collection of digital stuff. Well, not just the digital, but just all the technology that has been involved in creating my paintings through the years. And it had an impact on how I make paintings. For example, you don't know that stuff on the upper left side. It's an opaque projector. You know that? Opaque projectors? You still do? You have that here? Wow. Those are dinosaurs. Huh? We have one. Wow, one left. It's precious. So you would just put your paper, photocopy, or and I had a small version of this opaque projector. And what I really liked, I projected these images, but it was like always a failed projection. Too dim, dust, everything. It was really bad projection. But it informed the way I painted for a long time. Just putting the actual source image in the opaque projector. You have the, how do you call that one? With acetates. It's the, you know that one? It's there, over here. Overhead projector. Overhead projector. So, it's more linear. So it had an impact on how I trace, but more like with lines and stuff. So that had another one. And I'll show you like what I call the Anchor Women project. It was more like I worked with screens. So it really came out of the work I did with slides. Because for many, many years, I collected slides before, the use of the internet. I used a lot of slides to do either sandwich with slides or project slides. And again, that created a different feeling to the work that I did with paintings. And then on the right side, you have the more clean, my new camera. I had like this flip camera that I used a lot. And I went visiting zoos, and because I went outdoor a lot with this digital camera, because I was able to, do spy photography. It was like discreet, and I could flip the camera so I could hide it, because you couldn't take pictures in museums or different contexts. So that changed also my way of working. And of course now this is the more compact, digital stuff. I have the digital projector, and then you recognize the iPad and the phone. So it has a tremendous impact on how I work nowadays. So just to finish about, what I've been doing recently, and to show you how it will come back in the Case, Sainte-Catherine case. I did, again, with my two students from the master program, during the outskirts, on the road project we did in NSB. We actually wanted to, again, be outside of the studio setting, have conversations about the experience we shared. So we did this beautiful, I wouldn't call it a sculpture, but it's like we went downstairs in the basement, took materials and constructed the structure together. But it was like a way to exchange about our experience, and we just decided to put some work on the wall, and during the vernissage we invited people to give feedback about the show. So I really enjoyed working on this. I know it's like doesn't look like much now. It's like but it was a nice way to be able to have like a more interactive, more interaction with the visitors during the show. So I'll show you a bit of the paintings that are the voyage out. I'll show you like it's very different bodies of work. I call them screens, and then I'll show you my animal phase with cages, and then cells. The titles, the names, they change all the time, but it will give you an idea of what's been going on in my studio. And then the second part, I'll show you car crashes, black holes, and dark matter. So again, it's like second phase. And I'll end with the Sainte-Catherine Street project. So I just wanted to refer to these images. You can see that, the first images here are more about working with slides. So I would like superimpose slides, and you can't see this here, but like the body of the painting is very, very important, and the experience of the scale and the color. And in this series, I was working with images found on the television screen using slides. So the quality of the surface was extremely thin. Some people said that it looked like the vapeur d'acrylique. Vapors of acrylic. It wasn't even, it had nothing. Like I would put tons of gel, and it was like superimposed images. And that was like working with the quality, the gel-like quality of the slides. But then I started going outside with the digital camera, and I actually went on site like somebody that would do a documentation of the area. And I started working at what I call a series about animals, animal representation. So this is what I'm talking about, the three different screens, cages, and cells. So we have referring to the screens, and then to the cages. So it's different thematic groupings of paintings like that. And the last one I'll be referring to is cells. So just to show you a bit of what I mean by this very thin application of paint. I think it was in '96, I did an exhibition in a church organized by Jean-Claude Rochefort. He was very influential. He did all sorts of crazy exhibitions, in site-specific areas. And this exhibition was a group show, actually, in a church. And I had a super interesting time, just, for example, presenting. Sorry about this, the image is very dark. But these on the left is two anchor women taken off this TV screen. And it was just hung on top of a confessional. So imagine how the context just has a huge impact on the reading of the work. Can you see that? Can you imagine that? Because you can't see it. I love the fact that this is all pure fiction. You have to see the work in the video. And then I had like images from Halloween, actually, hung over this hotel in the church. So it started me thinking about context, how it's like super interesting, because I found the White Cube exhibition context so boring. But I didn't know what to do, because I love painting, I do. But it creates also lots of frustration because of the lack of imaginative reading about the work in the White Cube context. So these are the two anchor women I've been referring to. And you can see here on the right side, like this sort of blurred, superimposed image of an anchor woman. I did a show at La Centrale, the Powerhouse Gallery. It's a very famous artist-run center. I did, it was a feminist artist center. It still is nowadays. The show was called Intimate Terrors. It was inspired by Paul Virilio, who is a French intellectual. He said that everybody wants to project his intimate terror in the media. So what I did is I decided to do like an exhibition about my intimate terrors as a painter. So I sort of exposed all of my fears as a painter. And it was very, quite installative in nature. It was very weird. It was 3 triptych. I was very, very interested in breaking this sort of autonomous object reading. No one painting says it all. I wanted to show that, moving through the exhibition, playing with the meeting of two paintings together, how it could reinvent the reading of the painting. I also went outside the studio setting in Sainte-Catherine, which is an artist residency where you work in front of the public during 1 month. And you can work in the morning, and then in the afternoon there's actually public that goes through and comments. So you can do actually surveys. Should I use blue or should I use red? You could just turn around and go, hey, what do you think? Do you think I should? It was a tremendous experience, very interesting experience to have feedback while working. And we had, it was a huge arena. And we were working amongst artists also. So it was like kind of a zoo. It was a zoo, but an interesting zoo, nevertheless. This triptych was called Le Torrent. Le Torrent, it's comme a waterfall. Le Torrent. A torrent. A torrent. It was inspired by a book. Annebert, which is a French writer, very famous writer, Le Torrent. So I tried to represent Le Torrent, this idea of the abundance of images, through three different types of representation. So you had this traditional torrent. I did the documentation on site of an area in this neighborhood. And then the second one, then the third one was a translation of Le Torrent by Annebert, actually. And I inserted all sorts of little images from famous area, a bit like tourist cards from the area of Sainte-Catherine. The second one in the middle, do you know where those stripes could come from? Around this idea of torrent. How the hell I got this abstract thingy going in the middle? What I did in my head to create this piece. No, you can't guess, it's impossible. But I'll take a break and drink a bit of water. It was a torrent of just pure matter. But I actually copied a digital image of my first image blurred with, the tool? The finger tool? So it was again, acknowledging the fact that I'm a painter, but I'm working from digital images, trying to address this proliferation of images on the web, trying to play with this idea that there's many ways to represent landscape, the experience of their landscape, and that style or traditions is is multiple. Okay, so it was like an oblique way for me to address this idea of the diversity of stylistic approaches. So this is the last painting that was fumes of acrylic, because I started going outside, visiting areas where there was actually cages and animals. So I had this huge body of work around animals. But this outskirt in concrete areas changed my way to apply paint. It gave it more body. This is an image, a found image. Do you recognize that image? No. It was taken from a National Geographic book. Before I knew that, it was copyright issues. Because I didn't change the content of the image at all. I maybe boosted a bit the contrast. So I'll show you more images of these cages. So I would just go on site and play around this idea of again, framing cages, the confined space of painting, this idea of confinement, but through a different metaphor or a thematic approach. And I was reading Donna Haraway, her book about alterity and the relationship with animals. So it made a lot of sense for me to be working with images of vulnerability and alterity through the representation of this ultimate other, which is the animal. So this one is called the Grand Singe. Do you recognize that figure? Again, it's a famous figure from, no?
But the gorilla lady or something?
Yeah. What's that?
I forget.
Which one?
He said the gorilla lady.
Yes, that's it. It's the gorilla lady. You know, it was a big eroticization. Jane Goodall, remember? You don't remember, but there was like lots of movies of her going and speaking with monkeys and stuff. You know, this white woman interacting with animals. There's like plenty of images around that rapport with animals and all her vulnerability and all her openness about the animal relationship. So I played around with the different images around the Jane Goodall and other zoologists working with animals. And after my trip to Saint-Paul, where I was really like in a zoo, out of the studio, but in front of the public, I also did this painting called L'Atelier, the studio. And again, it was like showed at the National Musée des Beaux-Arts in Montreal, and it was all about this collection of images around the representation of animals. And the studio of the artist was like at the same level as any other cage or vivarium or you know, animal on display in these diorama or places like that. So I went to New York. I went to see actually in Paris. I went to see the Jardin des Plantes, which is magnificent collection of pheasants. Do you know pheasants? What they are? They're actually like little creatures, like insects, that are invisible because they blend with the background. So they have this huge collection of pheasants. So I was interested in investing the figure of the animal. You know, pheasant? I think it's French, and it's a word in English, pheasant. Didier Berman spoke about pheasants. It comes from the word phasm, which is like a phantom or illusion. But it's an actual insect that camouflages in the background. You have frogs that camouflage in the background. So I had all this trip around identification through the animal figure. You should go to the Jardin des Plantes to see that collection. And I also went to the Natural History Museum. You've probably been there, and I saw the diorama, which is reconstitution of nature and animals in those big aquariums, right? You've seen those in New York? I found it so gorgeous that I just included some of the images from the diorama. So this, I'm not translating the title, but this is called Wild Animals. Wild dogs.
Christine, are you, now I forget the name of that word, are you making up words for your titles, like putting two words together, like the last, is that actually?
No, the titles are very, very important to me. Because it creates like a conceptual framework. So I'm surprised I'm not translating the titles, but yeah, thank you for your question. It's very important. I take a lot of time to select the titles, but I never invent.
Because it looks like to me like habitat and spectacle, like two words put together. What does
Habitat means, you know, like the car is like, you know, for example, when you go, there are certain zoos you can visit while being in your car. So the actual car is an habitat, so it's like you're protected from nature. nature. So there's a distance between you and the actual white nature.
Because there was another title, speakerette.
Speaking,
Speakerette.
oh, majorette.
Speakerette. So the word speaker in English plus E-T-T-E-S, because then those were the two anchor women.
Okay.
Was that a word that
No,
was used in French, or did you?
Maybe it was a typo, but no, speakerin is all. Speakerin is actually the real word for in French for anchor women. So anchor women is really like women that do present the news on TV. And when I use the word et, you know, like majorette is the when you throw majorette. Do you have?
Somebody used to draw the
Majorettes. I like the et because after Louise Bourgeois, you know, when she speaks about feminizing the word, the et is always, you know, you have the doctor and then you have the nurse. So in French, when you add the et, it means like feminine. So majorette is something minor. So I use one. But it's, yeah, the titles are researched but never invented. They're found. Elephant. In French and English. Woohoo! Outskirts, faubourg. So you can see some of the digital language, right? It's sort of, but it doesn't really come from abstract art. It's more about, you know, the digital world. Even though it's not a naive choice either. Ours et dauphins. So this was pretty descriptive. Like around the zoos, it was pretty descriptive. Oh, instead, okay, minima moralia was not descriptive. Polar bear. And then I did a show called Les Jardins d'Éden. I wanted to show you this collection because it was the first time where I actually did a show around women that have worked with animals. There was Dana Haraway here, so I constructed like a painting around my interpretation of her way of thinking about the relationship to animals, like a non-hierarchical relation between animal and humans. And also this painting that looks very weird, but I love that painting. It's a painting about Temple Grandin. Did you know her? She's an autist working with animals, and she invented the choral, you know, where you bring cows to
corral. Yeah.
corral.
It's a system for,
Humane way to kill animals.
Yeah.
Because you bring the cow in this sort of circular motion towards it. But since they're like in a small corridor, they follow the next cow in front of them. And they liberate less adrenaline because they're not stressed out. So the food tastes better. So I found it like so interesting to do a painting about this idea that the viewer's gaze needs to be oriented towards that and in this corridor in a very tame way. Anyway, sometimes I have these weird ideas. But still, I was really interested in Temple Grandin, what she had to say about how she actually, to invent this technology, she became the cow, right? She had to think like a cow. She had to make one with the cow. So I found it really interesting, her way to talk about the relationship with the animals. And this painting, sorry Emily, but Le Jardin d'Éden of Emily Carr. So I looked at a lot to her menagerie around Emily Carr, the animals she shared her life with. So she was part of it. And another painting about the creation of Adam. That's not a title, but it's the same gesture, you know, between animal and human, of Adam the creation of the man. You know the famous painting where you see God touching the human?
Yeah.
So that came from actual, again, an image, a famous image around the work of Jane Goodall around the animal work. And I actually, again, did a residency in Saint-Paul. And what I did is I invited people to, first of all, come to talk to me about their relationship with animals. So I was again in this big arena. And then I had meetings with people that would actually bring animals to my gorgeous background. So there was this kind of a word of mouth, hey, there's an artist that she wants to meet people with animals. So I saw all sorts of, I saw people with cats, people with dogs, people with birds, people with tarantulas, any insects. I just had mammals. But it was very interesting. Like for example, l'homme mollusque, the way he described his relationship with this huge animal, that looks like a bear that came to the residency. Again, it was in this arena. So people would see that man coming in with this bear, and people went, the artist in the residency went, oh my God, Christine, you'll have a ball working with this man. And it was the gentlest man, And the way he described the relation with this mollusk, which is like a big rottweiler. It was like he was saying, in a sense, the same thing that our way says about this intimate relation we have with animals. How he cannot make his dog do anything if the dog doesn't want to do it. So anyway, I had all these conversations with people around the representation of the way they interact with animals, and again went back to my studio in Montreal and continued on this exploration of the human-animal relationship, doing photo shoots and presenting work in different countries. Parade was another exhibition where I showed more animals in representation, though, more in spectacle context. Like, for example, Einstein. You know Einstein? He knows like 1,000 words. He's a famous parrot. I don't know what that. It's a gray parrot. He's been talking on TV and also in all sorts of shows. So Parade was more about human ego, let's say. Because we project all these human qualities on the animal, right? So it was more like this project was more, this animal series was more a reflection on human obsessions than on animals per se. So this is the last part of what I wanted to show you in this first section. And this is called, the section called cells. So it's more about areas of confinement, but through this idea of cells or rooms. Or, for example, this show was called Nympha Moderna. It was inspired by Fitzbach. Fitzbach is like, when you open the newspaper, the section where there's the bizarre, violent Fitzbach. This woman was found and killed in an alley. That's a Fitzbach. Putting pressure. Then, so this was a big Fitzbach. We found J.C. Dugard was found after 10 years of sequestration in New York, or not New York, but in the United States. So she was actually kept by a man in a confined space for 10 years, and she actually was able to escape after 10 years. She had 2 children with this man. So that story hit my imagination. So I did an exhibition called Nympha Moderna around this faits divers. And I actually worked from these source images from the web. So it's actual, this is the chambre porno, so it's the porno, chambre porno, thank you, porno screening room of the sequester. That's now, English is left my brain. The seat captor, from the captor. So it was, I really like this idea that we don't see any images. I like this idea that the stories, the supplément, like I would say, the stuff I construct around the exhibition, the language on how I contextualize the exhibition. In the show, I don't necessarily deliver what I'm talking about. And I like this idea that there's no image on the screen. So I'm pinpointing to certain elements, but I'm not necessarily showing the spectacular aspect of the story of J.C. Duga. So this is more image. This is one, it was still part of the Ninfa Moderna exhibition, but it was more fiction around this idea of the nymph moderne. I actually did a photo shoot in the studio with a friend and constructed this context around the figure, like putting like clues inside of this thing. Again, this was a tent where she, I don't know, she didn't live in this tent, J.C. Duga. These are some of the buildings that were around where she was kept. So a very open-ended narrative, like I showed all sorts of different, for example, this was a Polytechnic event, so there was all sorts of traumatic events that I've included in that, in front of the show. So more of the exploration around this idea of cells, where I've worked around this, those images of more like suburbia, you know? Suburban imagery. Bizarrely enough, I showed some of those paintings from the cells. I showed that Letizia in Toronto. And I did also an interesting. It's funny to show you this around this idea of cells, but I actually did for a TV show a photo shoot with Pauline Marois in my studio. Pauline Marois was at the time the Prime Minister of Quebec. And I had a chance to spend 2 hours with her, making her do things in the studio so I can take a picture of her and include her in my paintings. It didn't exactly go that way, but I was able to, because she brought like 2-3 different costumes. She had her hairdresser, and the bizarre thing that happened, she was very, very willing to exchange and to go through this experience. But it was difficult for her to improvise in front of the camera. I spoke to her like for half an hour, and I showed her images and what I intended to do, and she just was like Einstein when she went in front of the camera. She just recited everything, like almost word to word, everything I wanted her to do. You want me to look at the camera, to turn to the right, to look up, and then to. She just was like a, I won't say this, but like a monkey. She just was extremely used to photo shoots for the media. So everything was super controlled. And the idea for this TV show, the concept behind the TV show is that a personality would give the the artist and object, and you would do like an artwork based on this transitional object that a person would give you. So Pauline Marois gave me a rooster, an actual rooster from her collection of roosters, because she collects roosters. But the rooster was like so not inspirational, that I actually invented an office of Pauline Marois, and I did this diptych, which was, it's called Vision and Division. It's bilingual title, Vision and Division. So I don't know what else to say, but I think it ends well, this idea of the cell and confinement. You know, how you actually act in a very programmed way in front of the camera. An interesting anecdote, the day she was not going to be re-elected, Télé-Québec showed that documentary again. So, meaning that this piece called Vision and Division was actually shown the day she was not re-elected. So now I always check contracts, because I felt really used in the context of the how do you say, election, in the context of the election, where they would show Pauline Marois in a bizarre relation with an artist, and you know how artists and politicians, it's not necessarily fluid relation. So anyway, it was like, I wanted to share this with you. So this is the last painting from this Cells collection. Now, how am I doing with time? 2 minutes to 2? Okay. So, crashes, black holes, and dark matter. I'll just show images from that series. In a way, like the car crashes I've been working with, and the exhibition around dark matter, I wanted to show the experience of creating a show that shows not a unified body of work, like not all images about animals, for example, but more like very different images, you know, from different universe, crashes between my collection of images. For example, this was called 10 centièmes de seconde, 10th of a second. Gilles Villeneuve, who is a car driver, I actually took the 10 last seconds of his death and like did a collage from the fact that the car just goes around for 10 centièmes de seconde. 10th of a second. So again, it was this idea of like this 10 centièmes, c'est 1/10 d'une seconde. So it was like super slowed down, like where his car just flips, the body goes flying, and he dies. So it's 1/10 of a second. The images from his death. So that was part of the crash theory exhibition, actually, like the gallery diagram. And that was before the show at the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Montreal, and I experimented with how I would present this series of women. So I showed them in many contexts. So in this series, like the crashes, the black hole, the dark matter, I started playing with, again, more of this way of installing work in the exhibition space. And I actually did for the Dark Matter exhibition. I started the exhibition, and halfway I changed the exhibition completely to show more of the paintings and to just propose a new way to approach the same ideas. It was around the 11th of September when there was the towers that went down. So again, it was like a pivotal moment for me. I went to New York and started to look at all these violent images on TV. I did a painting from, this is actually a leftover of paintings with the tower and the crash of the plane. So it just made me work more on the materiality of the paintings and taking out details in the paintings. So this collection of painting is it's very thick, it's very matte. There's a strong feeling, material quality to the collection from the collection. So the series around the Dark Matter. So this brings me to the project I'll be talking more about tomorrow. I just wanted to show you maybe a few images. I went to, we had access to a vacant building for many months. So I had like all liberty to do some photo shoots inside that building, to be really outside the academic context, outside of my studio. So I experimented the production of work with non-artists, with young adults that were part of this OSB non-profit organization. And we actually had, it wasn't planned in the first place, but at the end of this residency that was wasn't formal, it was just a space that we had access to. We actually opened the show. It showed some of the leftover of these performances, of the actual work we did, and I sort of co-curated the show in this building. So there was like things happening in the window. There was like many pieces installed on the first floor, and we had access to the 2 other floors. So I invited undergrad students to actually exhibit some work. So we did a site-specific installation with master students, a few students from the doctorate, undergraduate students, and we just went wild in that building. And we actually interacted because with the public that is not necessarily familiar with contemporary art. It's, like I said, a very poor neighborhood. It's being gentrified, like a lot of different spaces. So it was for the students, for me as a teacher, for me as an artist, to being, again, working in a complete outside of my familiar zone was extremely stimulating to me. And I actually built the stage to do the work with my non-actors, and that was again left in the space. And I have this collection now of of images I'm tweaking through digital manipulation. And I am constructing a new project around this residency. And these are bad images from my studio, but you can see like this, the new pochade or new sketches I'm doing around this, the photo shoots I did in the context of this residency. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you'll have questions.
So you go from one kind of body of work to another. They all have a continuity, but I was kind of wondering if there is like a certain point where I know absolutely that subject matter it's you exhaust it. I know that never happens. You don't ever completely exhaust the subject matter, but I wonder if there's a point for you where you've done enough time with animals, so then you now want to move on to animals and women. You know, like, is there some kind of point for you where
just becomes obvious that there's no, like, the animal series, I've been working on that for 10 years. So that was like a big investment, you know. After I've seen all the shows, I read all the sponsors, I have a collection of books around this idea, you know, I fed that idea for 10 years. But after a while, it just becomes, it's a natural process that I just grew out of that. Now everything around animals, I'm just like, ooh, been there, can't deal with that. It becomes visceral. I reject things, and I guess it's part of the process. Same thing. Like I would take images all the time off the TV screen. I would be obsessed. I had a camera close by all the time, working with anchor women on TV. Would listen to anchor women, be fascinated for a long time. But then I just grew out of it. It becomes visceral. I just reject it. So it's, I don't know if you feel it's big leaps, but it's like it changes lots of things when you abandon it, especially when you're a figurative painter. You know, oh, she's not doing animals anymore. I imagine people can be like super disappointed. And it's a bit of a problem for me in commercial galleries. You know, there's this pressure to just keep on going and feeding this trademark, but I just can't do that. It's impossible. It's not me at all. So I've just accepted that. If I want to continue on going, I need to just be in tune with what I need to be. And doing this project completely outside of my comfort zone is extremely important with the content of games, you know, going on walking to a neighborhood, getting acquainted with people. It's just, I need that at this point, and that's what it is. And I'm not thinking of, oh my God, you know, I'm not in the same thematic context now.
Did you conceive that last project with your master's students?
It started, I had a doctorate student that does like social intervention. So she works with people that have drug problems, housing problems, etc. And after the J.C. Lee project, I became very, very interested in like talking about social conditions. So I started working with this doctorate student that is not necessarily an artist, but she works in art and with intervention. So she had this studio in this building. And then I visited her in that neighborhood, and she said, oh, well, it would be nice if there was other people working with me here. So we started building this project around her, creating like a context for her to work with other artists. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And then we asked like professional artists to actually be part of that project. But it's a very well-known building for drug dealers. So like most artists, were really scared to actually say yes. You know, I would visit with artists, and they would just, some of them had a reaction, you know, it smelled like pee, and it was like dusty. It was really, it was a bad building. And when we opened the door, there was actually people that were used to come and have their drug fix. So there was prostitutes at night. It was intense. For the students, it was like a collision with a different reality. So we just slowly built, found master students to join the club. Like Valérie Perron did a performance on the street, in the storefront window. She did one at UQAM, at school. So imagine the crowd at school going and seeing Valérie Perron in the storefront. And imagine her doing a performance in the storefront window. It was a totally another experience altogether. So it was extremely interesting to just to do our work, but to start looking around at the context and how it impacts the way we make art. What is the reason for us to make art? And it all came out of this exchange with a doctoral student that was doing art intervention.
I really want to appreciate that you came up with this clear interview. Okay.
No, come closer, because there's a color.
Yeah, this color is awesome. So I have a question about, first of all, I wanted to appreciate that how you explained about your idea and how you change directions, which is really insightful for all of us that changing direction. It's really a good thing and consider it as trying out, but then also like maybe you have different idea of your mind that you can improve more. But then I also was thinking about, because we mostly like here undergrad students, and we want to like pursue our passion for art in the future. What was the way that you picked as a survival way at the beginning to stop to just go in and not stop your art practices and keep producing art? As I see you construct with your context and everything, but these ones require time and require like focus. How you did not lose your focus? How did you manage with all of those together?
Wow, that's $1 million question. But you know, for many years, I did all the jobs that were out there. Like for over 15 years, I've been working in the milieu. I worked in artist-run centers. I did everything from JIP to being part of committees. I did everything. Did art delivery. I did all the jobs, graphic design, all the jobs for many years, and just kept on going to the studio, super tired, and trying to keep on going because I just had to do it. But it's difficult. But for a long time, like when I came to Montreal after my undergrad, like I went to an artist-run center, and just to keep sane, I kept close to the artist community just to be able to not forget that I'm an artist. And that's the challenge at the beginning, is to not forget. I have so many talented students, it's unbelievable, that just stop making art because they forget, because they're seeing people that are not involved in the arts, and they just change their way. So I think it's important to be among artists, to go out to vernissage, and to keep feeding that way to see the world, because it's a really different way to see the world. It's not about money, it's about passion, for me it's a way to make contact with the world. I just need it, because I wouldn't know what to do. I did office work, I worked at the National Gallery. It was like super stimulating, but at the end of the day, I just didn't know what to do. Why was I there? And when I make art, I understand better what I'm here for. And then after a long time, I had like a job, a teaching job, and at Ottawa U, so it kept me going, you know, but it's been really, like, working wasn't a priority. Working on the art was a priority. I don't know if it answers your $1 million question, but I'm sending you all the energy to keep on going because it's worth it. It's really worth it. It's a very stimulating way to live your life. My official transport.
You talk about how you make work primarily for particular contexts, or with that in mind at first. How does the context of preparing a show for a commercial gallery differ from another experience, let's say editing? I mean, I understand that maybe that's a bad example, but just particularly in terms of the commercial gallery, do you take on that idea of producing things that are for sale?
Oh yeah,
That's like foremost in thinking about, okay, that's this context, so that will change. Like, I can't do a week-long project with my few students and make an installation.
No, and I had so many bad conversations with, not necessarily Donald, but you know, it's like, it's a product, right? So it's very dry relation to art. You know, it's like the comments I hear when people are just there to buy the work. It's not very nourishing. Let's say. So it's not nourishing.
Like
so,
what are those comments?
Well, like it's pink instead of yellow. It's too big, or the butt is too round, or it's like, because it's fetishism. You know, why do you like a painting? It's like it's a mystery. So if it doesn't comply to your fantasy of what you want, you know, the client will just throw that at you. But it's like it has nothing to do with art making. So of course, when I make art for the commercial gallery, it's like I feel like it's very dry for me. It's not nourishing at all. So maybe that's why I started creating dark matter and stuff. You know, it wasn't going very well with my gallery owner, and I had many other galleries before. So it's always a very tense, because I feel it's very dry. And painting, like, there's issues, you know, around style. If you change style, etc. So yeah, the 39 Case it was a huge necessity for me to just break free of the commercial project, to reinvent everything, to explore, because I'm really there to explore, not to reproduce myself, to do the same. So, but when it works well, it's fun. You get lots of money. So when you make, like for example, I did the diptych, you know, the big constellation, beautiful painting, and then there's the green one that's kind of weird. It's an explosion at the particle level. So one is an explosion in the cosmos, you know, dark matter, and the other one is an infiniment petit at the scale of the atom. So conceptually, it goes together. It's the macroscope and the microscope. But then when the BAM TD came, they liked the black one. Okay, they liked the black one. Goes well with the black letter M. So they didn't want to buy it together, right? And I like to do series. You know, my Titi-Tinment without L, it's a series of 4 paintings. That's the thing, you know. But of course, most people want to buy one. I like the pom-pom girl. So it's frustrating. And for example, that Bank TV bought the dark matter one, but didn't want the green one. So I had to make a decision: do I sell this, or I just keep it in my studio and die? You know, because my studio is quite full. So I'm going through a crisis, you know, like not making compromises, but at the same time wanting to sell also. So it's always a huge challenge. But I try to keep my head straight and put my priorities straight.
Still within though the commercial frame. So is it a question of, you know, having like the ideal gallerist, the ideal dealer who's willing to take a risk
Oh, yeah,
with
for
dark
sure.
matter?
If that exists.
We don't have many of those in Canada, or maybe anywhere?
Well, in Montreal, it's not, you know, painting is read in a very conservative way, okay? It's like, people don't collect a lot, they don't, it's not, it's probably different elsewhere, but there's issues because it's an object and it's hard for me to make this kind of object circulate, it's not like photography. So the context in Montreal, if there was like somebody with, you know, with balls in Montreal and ready to experiment, like that would be phenomenal. Phenomenal. I would go for it for sure. I would make more content games, site-specific work, and it would be great. I don't have a problem with money. I have a problem with you know, just this marketing.
We have a
To go.
go.
Oh,
wrap
okay.
up, right?
So I hope we'll continue this conversation tomorrow, all day, during the symposium, because there's lots to talk about.
11:30, guys.
Oh, wait a
Woodworks.
second, but the symposium does start at 9:30
Tonight.
9:30
yes, but
tomorrow
yeah.
morning. And
till 5,
Till 5.
and there's
yeah.
different panels.
So there's 4 different panels, and the panel that Christine is on is the second panel of the morning, so the one before lunch. And tonight, Isabel Raw, who's a scholar, who's interested in painting, contemporary painting, is speaking at Nicole University.
She's extremely interesting. So I hope to see you around. Thank you for your attention.